Dead no more. Patient Zer0 Chapter 26 T's long-lost dad. Don't worry Dad, I've got this, said Joshua. He stood up and calmly walked over to a screaming Jim. Please calm down, sir, he said as he pulled off the hand at the wrist of the walker grasping at Jim. He then shoved his index finger and middle finger into the head of the walker. He turned and smiled at me. Jim's wife was standing there aghast. Wow, mister, you killed that thing just like a ninja, said Jim's son. That was so cool. You thought that was cool, huh? Well, watch this, said Joshua as he seemingly vanished. I could tell that he was using a combination of speed and refracting light to engage the approaching walkers much like Gerald and Andre does. 2, 4, 8, 16 fell the walkers. It was more than just technique. Joshua was somehow incorporating the abilities of the others into his fighting style, but to a lesser degree. Well, damn, yelled T, what the hell is that, some kind of copycat ability? Again, Joshua looked back at us and smiled. He had no wasted motion or effort as he cleaved his way barehanded through the walkers. Joshua, for all intents and purposes, had mutated into a mimic. He could readily copy any ability he has witnessed to an approximation of a 25% effectiveness. And he made it look so damn simple. After he dispatched the last walker, he returned to our position with a flurry of back handsprings and ended in a back somersault. Jim's son was ecstatic. Dad, he really is a ninja, screamed the little boy in delight. Who the hell are you people? Asked Jim confusingly. We're here to help. If you will allow us, we'd like to offer you a safe haven. A community to live and thrive, I said. Hell, we even party from time to time, added T. We're more than a community. We're a family, added T2 as he looked at T. Jim, was it? Asked Joshua. You can trust my dad. Jim looked at his wife and she at him. They both looked down at their overjoyed son who was excited about the prospect of living with ninjas. As I started before, began Jim pausing to step away from the car and to look around. My name is Jim Carter and this is my wife, Ariel, and the rambunctious youth is my son Jim Jr. or JJ. When all of this started, we were on a road trip from Michigan. Shortly afterwards, the highways became jammed. We settled in with a group of like-minded individuals in Ohio, but the dead, what did you call them? Walkers. Yeah, walkers kept hounding our every step. But slowly but surely, it became the living who were a bigger danger. Marauders would rob, beat and kill anyone they came across. In some cases, they were worse than the dead. We were out scavenging when our camp was overrun by marauders. When we got back, those who had been killed were just turning. It was horrible. We moved from camp to camp, group to group, and were forced to move on either due to walkers or marauders. That's how we ended up here in Georgia. Well, Jim, Ariel and JJ, if you are willing to become part of our community, our family, we'd love to have you, I said. There are some conditions that will have to be met. As you can imagine, our home is precious to us and must be protected. In order to drive you there, I must insist that you be blindfolded to maintain secrecy. Also, you have to spend your first 3 months on site without leaving. Meals and lodging will be provided. Jim quietly discussed the terms with Ariel. They both weighed the options and considered the effects of taking the offer and dismissing it. Then Ariel looked at JJ and then shook her head. Doctor, we'd like to take you up on your offer. It's just too dangerous out for all of us, but mainly for my wide-eyed son who sees the romance and adventure in everything, said Ariel. We'd like to put our trust in you and become members of your camp. I'm glad, I said. And JJ, how would you like Joshua to teach you martial arts? That is if it's okay with your parents. Mom, Dad, can I? Asked JJ excitedly. Jim and Ariel, everyone trains. We never know what type of opposition we might face, so everyone trains, I said. We have to be prepared for the worst. Don't sweat it, said T, if they can teach me, they can teach anybody. We made our way back to the truck and found some bags to cover the heads of our 3 new members. The sun was beginning to set. I looked at T, T2 and Joshua. Along with them and the baby, this was my immediate family. The drive seemed longer home than it was out, but I know that was not the case as I was able to calculate our distance and vectors with ease. Regardless of my increased capacity, I guess some things just remain human. As we approached the farm that concealed the bunker, I felt a pensiveness from Joshua. He went from confidence to concern to unease. What's up, son? I asked as we stopped at the barn. Dad, what if Jamie doesn't like what I've become? He asked. What if she is repulsed? I still don't know how she truly feels about the serum. Son, I don't think Jamie is so shallow as to become disinterested due to your enhancements, I stated as TNT2 offloaded the Carter family from the truck. Whatever happens, talk to her, listen to her, hear what she has to say. As TNT2 guided our new residents down the ladders, I heard another familiar sound. It was the heartbeat of mine and M's unborn child. She must be at the foot of the ladder. Honey, shouted M telepathically as she jumped into my arms and her protruding belly bumped against me. There must be a distance limitation as I was unable to read or sense your presence about 10 minutes after you left. I have to admit, it was a little disconcerting. I love and missed you too as well, I shot back as I noticed the uncomfortable awkwardness between a surprised Jamie and Joshua. Did you? Began M. Yes, I cut her off. Is he? She began again. Yes, I replied again. Wow, Jamie's a lucky duck, she thought. Honey, I blushingly thought, he's our son. With your increased mental acumen and total recall, remember what it was like to be a teenager their age, she thought. Oh, I thought. Jamie stood there for what seemed like an eternity staring at Joshua. She didn't say anything, but I think Joshua's pheromones had kicked in with a mixture of teenage lust and angst. For the first time, I was forced to see that my son is a sexual being. Jamie slowly circled him, touching his forearm and his biceps. Her hand slid up between his pecs and down to his developed abdomen. She looked up into his eyes as hers began to well up. You went without me. You promised that we would do it together, she said. It's not fair. You promised. I know, explained Joshua. There were circumstances beyond my ability to ascertain the ramifications of not acquiescing to the demands that were placed upon us. What does that mean? Cried Jamie. You were already so much smarter than me. Now I don't even understand you. Joshua sighed heavily as he struggled to communicate at a level that she would comprehend. Jamie, it all happened so fast, he said. The men who held me hostage made my dad inject me or they would have killed me. Jamie looked at him and buried her face in his chest. He stood there with his arms at his side, resisting the urge to embrace her for fear of crushing her. Jamie, I'll talk to my dad and see if we can move you and Billy up on the list to receive the serum, said Joshua. I love you. You and Billy are just as much a part of my family as my dad, mom and the baby are. I want this for you. I want this for us. Joshua gently placed his hands on the small of her back, as Jamie sobbed. The way my boy consoled her, convinced me that he truly cared for this girl. It was a long day, but I still wanted Eli to check out Joshua to ensure that the addition of my blood did not have an adverse effect on him. But we will worry about tomorrow's problems, tomorrow. The next morning, Joshua was put through the paces similar to what had happened to me. His musculature was not as pronounced as mine, but you could tell that the potential was there. Like me and M, his cells were self-replicating but at a slightly slower rate. He was almost able to crudely match my physical prowess. His healing far outpaced the others but was not as advanced as mine, and his mass had not increased on par with mine or T2's, but his mind was another story altogether. The only issue was when Joshua attempted to replicate mine, M's or T's abilities. It's as if there is a failsafe that prevents him as he experiences nausea and dizziness. This is ridiculous, exclaimed Eli. Joshua is like an automatic synthesis of anyone's abilities. His ability allows him to copy, memorize, store and recall any ability to a 25% efficiency. Any abilities except your, Amelia's and T's. His mind is almost as advanced as yours and Amelia's. Autosynthesis sounds like a good name for what he does. There doesn't seem to be a limit to the number of abilities he can synthesize at once either. But Eli, that works well with the dissonance of the reality or an abridgment of the arts and or sciences, said Joshua. But it means nothing to matters of the heart. Until I make good on my promise to Jamie, my heart continues to grow heavy. Joshua, Eli and I discussed at length the possibility of Jamie and Billy receiving the treatment. But it was as I feared. I'm sorry Joshua, Billy can't receive the treatment until he reaches puberty, said Eli. He's still growing and his organs have yet to mature. It could be catastrophic if we were to give him a dosage now. But Jamie should have no issues. But Jamie won't take the serum unless Billy does, said Joshua. There has to be something that we can do. What if we matured his organs to the point of reception? Son, would you deny him the opportunity to grow and discover who he is, the way you did? I asked. Shouldn't he be afforded the same opportunity to grow not only physically, but intellectually and emotionally? Think about what happened to T2 and how fast he had to grow up. Do you want that to happen to Billy? As usual, you're correct in your inference to the need for a mature white matter, cerebellum, cerebral cortex and medulla oblongata, said Joshua. He needs to educate and matriculate to become the best version of himself that he can be, thereby making a more viable candidate for the serum. To quote T, "Da fuck," said Eli. And why is it that although everyone's mental capacities have increased, T still speaks in the same way? Because I'm T, baby, said T as he entered the lab. What's up, nephew? They almost done pockin' and proddin' you. I think you and my other nephews and I need some bonding time. I want you to go with us to the other two camps to display the benefits of the serum to everyone. Tell the truth, T, you wait outside of a door until someone mentions your name so you can make that entrance, don't you? Asked Eli semi-jokingly. T winked at him and smiled his T smile. At this juncture, it would not be an adequate or prudent time to broach the subject of ut dixi, non opus sit, said Joshua. I have more pressing matters to consider and to develop an algorithm to determine the outcome that is palatable to all parties involved. Latin, for, should I, shouldn't I, said T. Look Jay, I know you have a lot going on in that newly overdeveloped noggin of yours. But you have just as much, if not more going on in your heart and your soul. I think you need a light distraction to help you along the way. And if all else fails, I'm sure you are more than capable of multitasking while we are out. If there is one thing I'm certain of, is that ice is cold. The other is that Jamie loves you. You now have to give her time to figure out how much. How does he do it, Dad? Asked Joshua as he looked me in the eyes. How does Uncle T always know exactly what to say, when to say it as well as how to say it? T and I answered simultaneously while looking at each other, because I'm T, baby. Both grinning. Son, even before he was able to read minds, T has always had the gift of a big heart and a knack for making others feel better. And I am so thankful for it. Look, you, Jojo, T2 and I need to bond and spend some time together, said T. I'm still looking for a way to break the news to Jojo about being his uncle. T2 and I decided we'd tell him together. Jay, I'd like you to be there as well, you too Marv. I'm honored that you would include me in such an intimate family matter, said Joshua. Any way you slice, we family, said T. Before we left, Fred and Vaughn were excited by some modifications of the drones that Morales and the twins found. Vaughn petitioned the council to use one of the solar panels to create rechargeable drones with cameras to cover the 3 areas. Fred backed his play and sponsored his work with the council. The two of them were becoming a well-oiled machine, especially when Vaughn suggested that Fred search for and modify an artificial prosthetic hand. The hand had as many gadgets as a Swiss Army knife. Fred's new hand had a solar-powered power cell, an ultraviolet laser, extendable tensile-strength titanium carbon-blended cable digits for fingers, a pneumatic drill, and a crushing capacity of 250,000 pounds per square inch. Under the correct circumstances, he could literally turn carbon into diamonds. Fred was excited but not satisfied. This is the first of many improvements I plan to implement to my artificial appendage, said Fred. I want it to eventually implement every conceivable need that I might have for a tool. Joshua and I met Jojo and T2 at the ladder to hatch on the farm. Jojo could tell something was up. He stopped as he grabbed the first rung of the ladder. Well, is someone going to tell me what's going on? He asked, kind of annoyed. Look, I know you all are a part of the Superpowers Club and I'm low man on the totem pole, but that doesn't mean you all have to treat me like I'm less than a person. T2 and Joshua looked to me, but I digressed to T. I projected, this is his show. I'm just a member of the audience. Jojo, you're a member of a much more exclusive club, said T. While we were out on our last run, we discovered something. I'm your uncle and you and T2, a tank are my nephews. Wait, that doesn't make any sense, said Jojo. I've met all of my mom's brothers and my dad didn't have any. Jojo, your grandfather had another son before your father, I said. That son was T. His real name is Torin. But that's Tank's real name, said Jojo. My grandfather insisted on it. He said the name was important to our family. Torin was the name of one of our ancestors who led a revolt on a plantation not too far away from here, said T. My father left when I was just a little fella, but his mom taught me everything there was to know about our family history. She was the one who named me Torin. So our dad lied to us our entire lives? Asked Jojo. Why didn't he tell us the truth? There's a good chance he never knew I existed, said T. My father was probably too ashamed to tell anyone that he abandoned his previously family. Joe, what this means is we're not alone, said T2. We have a family again, both with Uncle T and Uncle Marvin. What it means is that I would like to get to know you two better, said T. Like T2 said, we're family. Man, I don't know you and you can't just claim it's like we're orphaned puppies, said Jojo. This too sudden. I'm going to need some time to process this. Dad, Uncle T, would you all mind if I talk to Jojo and T2 alone? Asked Joshua. I think the three of us need to talk. T and I went back to the conference room as the three of them ascended ladder.